Hello and welcome to EduFund. In today's episode, we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Jeetendra Khatri, who is an assistant fund manager and a research analyst equities at Tata Asset Management. Jeetendra has 19 years of experience. He has worked with JP Morgan India, he has worked with Daiwa Capital Markets India, and also Quantum Advisors. Qualification-wise, Jeetendra holds a Bachelor in Management Studies from Sydenham College of Commerce and Management. Welcome to the show, Jeetendra.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the auto sector.
Yeah.
Since Tata Asset Management is coming up with an index fund in this space.
Correct.
So where do you see the auto sector's growth over the next couple of years?
Historically, auto sector was represented in a very small way in the index. Whether you take Sensex or Nifty, it was dominated by Maruti and Tata Motors. Now, if you see with the premiumization coming into play, and especially post-COVID, post-2020, more so for the personal mobility segment, your two-wheelers and passenger vehicles, there's been crazy demand for two-wheelers, especially in the premium segment. You look at Apache and Pulsar, etc. So on one hand, on the personal space, you have premiumization coming into play. On the other hand, in the commercial mobility space, your light commercial vehicles, medium and heavy intermediate commercial vehicles, your entire infrastructure play, mining and construction, road building activity, that is coming into play. So generally, you will not always find an inflection in these two sectors. It's very cyclical in nature. Sometimes, the commercial vehicle may be booming, but passenger space might be very subdued. But we are right now at an inflection point where over the last 4-5 years, we have seen a secular, you can say a big secular growth in all these segments uniformly. But I don't think this secular growth will continue in the future. One has to take a cyclical call. But overall, I think if you take all these segments and stretch your horizon over a longer period of, let's say, 5 to 10 years, you will see a steady growth, which follows the GDP for but obvious reasons that when a country is riding on the boom of prosperity, your GDP per capita is increasing, your broader macro theme starts flowing down, trickling down from top to bottom, and you will see wealth effect playing into not just premiumization, basic demand increasing for vehicles, last mile connectivity, more heavy commercial vehicles flying over longer distances. So overall, I say if you look at the broader macro theme over the next 5 to 10 years, next decade, auto sector is definitely going to be doing very good.
When it comes to the new developments in the auto sector, what are the trends which you see? We are talking about the emission norms. The government is now implementing the BS6 norms, and also electric vehicles is taking a decent share in the overall pie. So where do you see these revolutions changing the growth trajectory?
So one is that, one is a revolution and one is an evolution. So revolutions are brought in by BS norms, right? And now Europe is, so November 2022, Europe started instituting the Euro 7 emission norms. There is debate, some states are agreeing, some are not, over when and how the Euro 7 emission norms will be implemented. Now those norms are extremely strict if you want to implement them, and they will mean heavy penalties, or you can say heavy research and development costs for all the OEMs globally. So once we move from Euro 6 to Euro 7, I think that might be the last leg of emission norms. Post Euro 7, your particulate matter emission and all the benchmark numbers come so low that you will naturally graduate towards stronger hybrids or let's say electric vehicles, right? Because post Euro 7 you move to literally zero emissions. With those in place, an electric vehicle is as good as a natural progression. So probably an electric vehicle idea might not have been a good idea in BS2 or Euro 3 or Euro 4 when there was still some scope for improvement in the emission norms in ICE engine. But now that you have moved to Euro 7, now implementation talks are, the year around which the implementation is being talked about is around 2028 to 2030. We still have some time to go. But as you see, India and China have promised, since they are seen as heavy contributors to global pollution, they have promised to be positive participants in climate control.
Right.
And that's why you see the Indian government leapfrog in 2020 from BS4 straight to BS6. There was no BS5. So I think BS7 will also follow Euro 7, and post that globally, not just India, everyone will graduate towards electric vehicle. The only thing which is different is electric vehicle. If you see globally, the ones which are selling are all expensive ones.
Yeah.
And it has to be, the concept has to be high ticket in nature. By ticket I mean high price per unit. It has to target the luxury segment because development costs are big, battery costs are big. It's only now that BYD, Kathleen are selling batteries in millions.
Yeah.
We are still in our initial stages, and many would not want to depend on China for their batteries. So I think it will be evolutionary in nature, it will be transitionary in nature, it will not be a revolution.
Okay.
Because there are enormous costs both from the OEM perspective as well as the customer's perspective.
So while that is true, I mean, electric vehicles are definitely going to take its own share of pie, and it will be like a normal course of action, as you say.
Right.
But don't you think there will be a lot of infrastructure challenges which India may face because you need charging stations? So do you think India is infrastructure ready if EV has to grow leaps and bounds?
Definitely no. So I was coming to that. See, I think at the current scale wherein we are selling mostly electric two-wheelers and EV penetration in passenger vehicles is very low. It's around 2%. So it's not causing a big hindrance. It's not putting any real load on the infrastructure for charging. But as the EV penetration picks up in light commercial vehicles, in three-wheelers, in your passenger vehicles, where the battery packs will be larger and it will put more and more load on the power grid, right, on the transformer, on the local charging facility. I think that is when the challenges will start coming in, not less than 5 years from now, but the challenges will definitely be there. So I think going ahead, you have to do it the way Norway did it. You have to take into factor all the participants and then plan EV.
Okay.
So see, you have to take the solar guys. They are helping you power the battery station, much like a fuel pump or a fuel station. There will be a battery station, and that is being charged by a solar guy. Then the solar guys have to be taken into picture. NTPC, Power Grid, all these companies which are a relation to the transmission lines, transformer companies, all of the infrastructure has to be taken into play because transformer cannot be retrofitted.
Right.
The transformer has to be changed. That is also a big cost. Right. So if two Tata Nexons are charging in your complex, it is not a problem. But when those two are successfully running, it will invite a plethora of buyers who will think that it is a good idea to have this car. Running costs are low. In India that works, right? जो शर्मा जी के पास है वो अपने पास है. What you see is what you buy. Seeing is believing. So eventually, as the EV penetration picks up, it will definitely put a massive load on the charging infrastructure unless it is planned right down from the center to the municipality level, where all the great guys are taken into confidence.
So would it be right to say that, I mean, that can be a more like a, not deterrent, but more like a conservative approach, or maybe it is going to not help the sector grow to its right potential?
I would say it
restrict
will grow.
the growth basically.
So if you take a residual view, that end में क्या होगा? In the end, what will happen is the growth will come, the penetration will come, the transformation to electric will happen. It will not be as fast as what people are dreaming of or what they are trying to project looking at the current project.
Right.
So the rate at which it is growing now, it will slow down. There will be hiccups, there will be impediments. They will be addressed, and they will again. So the problem will also start, morphing into another problem. Once you address the grid problem, there will be another problem. Once you address the charging problem, there will be yet another problem.
Yes.
So the problem also morphs along with the situation, and I think so that will slow down the growth. Penetration will slow down, especially as you increase the size of the vehicle.
Right.
Probably it might also so happen that lithium might be the first casualty. So Paytm came in and then everyone started adopting GPay.
Right.
But Paytm showed you the way.
Right.
Something like that. So while lithium addresses the problem of pollution, it may not, and in fact even be the end solution. The end solution may lie in a sodium, hydrogen or magnesium, but lithium will show you the way. Definitely.
I was coming to the point of hydrogen. A lot of research has been taking place in that space. In fact, a lot of statements are also coming from the government side on their focus on this hydrogen fuel-based vehicles. So what is your take on that? I mean, is that going to be a competitor to EV? How is that going to take its share?
I think in hydrogen will do very well in the commercial space. But hydrogen in passenger will follow the lithium charging cycle. or the lithium charging process, where you will have a fuel cell method. In commercial, it will have a proper green hydrogen tank, liquid hydrogen tank.
Right.
So the process might be different, but I think hydrogen is a stronger and a better chance of success in the commercial mobility space, where again the routes are circuitous and the journeys can be more well planned.
Right.
Right. So the better you can plan, right, the more it is less, more it is non-discretionary in nature, that every day you are traveling this path, the higher the success of both lithium and hydrogen.
Coming to the passenger vehicles, how would you compare India versus China in terms of your penetration of vehicles? I think India is far below China.
Yeah.
So how do you see the growth in terms of passenger vehicles? Because in India, owning a four-wheeler is also more like a luxury and a style statement.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you see the growth in passenger vehicles, and are we going to surpass China anytime soon? What is your viewpoint at that?
Overall, see, again the wealth effect comes into play.
Yeah.
So China, Indonesia, whoever is above us in GDP per capita will actually do well.
Right.
And generally, if you see your auto market, it mirrors the economic growth. So if you look at the top 5 economies, US, Japan, China, and India and Germany, these are also coincidentally the top 5 auto markets.
Yeah.
There was a time when Brazil was doing very well, Russia, Mexico, China, Canada. Canada also, and these were in the top 10. Now you don't even UK. Now you don't see them anywhere because their economies have crumbled. So the economic effect always has its shadows over the auto market. So economically, I feel as long as China stays ahead of India, the wealth effect will come into play, and they, in terms of overall passenger vehicle space, will always be better than India in terms of both growth and penetration.
Right.
And again, if you see their population density, overall, if you look at the pan nation density, it's not as high as what you have in India. Like in India you have clusters of cities like what you have in the US.
Right.
In China, a lot of people live. There's a technical concept of Techchon line, right? Most of the country is countryside, and the urban area is very concentrated. So very easy to implement policy, very easy to bring revolution in change.
Right.
No state interference, right? So here again there are policy interferences also. There will be meddling from the state, and also I think that can act as an impediment. But overall the wealth effect still comes into play. We'll be slower to adopt a lot of things which China adopts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think for India to surpass China will be a big challenge.
Coming back to the fund, I mean, this particular fund is more like a sector fund. And sector fund, we all know, brings its own set of risk, and also given the fact that automobile is a very cyclical sector.
Right.
So how do you think a retail investor should play when they would want to take an exposure in a sector fund?
When a retailer has to play, he will not probably understand cycles the way an institution understands.
Right.
He will not understand when to put money in Ashok Leyland or when to put money in a Tata Motors. And I think this is where the any fund of any AMC helps him, in the sense that he gets to have a secular position in the sector. He gets to have an exposure where the top 5 companies are Maruti, Mahindra, Tata Motors and Bajaj Auto. They are dominating 50% of the market cap, and if you're broadly positive on them, they will take you to a good destination in terms of returns. Cyclicality, that is around 27% of the index. That is my calculation based on the revenue share that I see. If you carve out the commercial vehicle portion of revenues of Tata Motors, Mahindra, and you take Ashok Leyland as fully cyclical, so that way we come to a number that is around 27%. So 27% I would not say is very heavily cyclical. At the same time, it is also being compensated by the strong growth opportunity that you see in the other sectors. If you ask me, exposure to auto fund compared with the others, I think of 10% exposure will not be bad enough in a customer's portfolio.
And this will be a long-term horizon.
Yeah, because you are betting on a GDP proxy.
Right.
And the best ways to bet on GDP or on your country's growth is one, the consumer space, and second is your auto space.
Right.
And then right after your consumer and auto follows real estate. Or you bet on the infra, which takes care of everything,
Right.
manufacturing, real estate, auto. But auto is a mature industry,
Hmm.
right? So you're betting on a mature industry which will definitely grow with the GDP. There will be no nuances of a mid-cap company not doing well or a small-cap company going out of business. So that benefit you have. Yeah.
So that's all from our side,
Yeah.
Jeetendra. Thanks a lot for
Thank
your
you so
time
much.
and thanks a lot for sharing your insights.
Yeah.
I am very sure our viewers would have taken some decent insights about the auto sector and how they should take an exposure to this sector.
It was a pleasure talking.
Thanks a lot. I hope you like our content. For more such interesting videos, subscribe and follow our channel.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.